Hello again and thanks for joining. So today we've got this rather unusual 3-car EMU to have a look at. This is from Playart. It's a Hong Kong manufacturer and this model represents a JNR485, which is a Japanese train. This model didn't come with any box and unfortunately it has had a little bit of damage en route to me. You can see a couple of parts there at the front which we need to put back onto this model, and also the power car in the middle has got quite a lean on it as well, so there's something going wrong there. We're going to have to try and fix that as well. It's going to be really interesting to have a look at these models. They look absolutely fantastic, so let's have a look at them close up. So I've got one of the two unpowered cars here. The motor for this model is in the middle of the car. Straight away though, look at the absolutely fantastic bonkers design this is. It looks so science fiction like and it's so very different from UK and European models. But it does have an air of toyness about it, and you can see that as well from things like the painting here, which has absolutely terrible masking. It's so fuzzy there and it really doesn't look good at all. It's particularly bad on the corners here, but it also extends to this part here over the windows. Although that said, the inside part of the window frame is actually painted, which is quite rare for a model, and this one does seem to be quite a low budget one. It is made in Hong Kong and I think it had some connection with Lima, but I'm not quite sure what that was. Anyway, here at the front we have a set of 4 lights which look as though they're illuminated, plus this clear plastic part here which I think is also part of the illumination. It looks as though it's had a bit of a bash here as well. We'll see if we can try and fix that. We have these extra parts here added on. They're in the grey plastic, different to the body plastic. And we have these couplings at the front which look very similar to Lima couplings of the time. And then this part here is an extra piece in light grey with these little jumper ports on here which will be moulded in black, which look really quite good actually. But the plastic moulding isn't too good, and you can see that there is a moulding mark coming down the side of this cab here. And then we have this logo here, which I'm not actually even sure what that's meant to be. I think it's maybe NL with some symbol in front of it, but it's just so poorly applied. We do have a silver surround on these windows here, and you can see that we have this blue glazing. There is a wire that you can spot in there, so it looks as though we have pickup from this bogie up to the lighting inside here, and the blue glazing is also up here in the cab area. We've got a dummy light fitted up here as an extra part, and this part here which looks like an aerial, and this part here as well. Those are extra parts that have been moulded and glued onto this model, and they really add to the character of this. The masking of the silver is a bit better than the red, but it's still quite bad and blotchy in the paintwork. But then on the top of the roof we have these interesting, I think they're probably air conditioners, and there's a number of them there. Those are added on extra parts, as well as these boxes here which are extra parts. This model has got some scratches here, so it has had a bit of a checkered history. No real detail on the side of this carriage, and then you come to another door here. The moulding doesn't really have that much relief on it, so it's quite unconvincing as a model really. It's more like a toy than a model, I suppose. We have another small window up here with a silver surround, again really badly painted, and then the end of the carriage we have no real detail at all, but we do have a window there with some glazing and this extra part that's been moulded and added on here in black plastic. Doesn't seem to connect too well at the bottom here. And then looking underneath we've got these bogies which have an awful lot of sideways movement on them, so this would be quite a wobbly train, and these wheels with massive flanges on them as well. So if you've got code 100 track, I don't think this is going to work for you. We also have this coupling hanging out here to the next car. Not that much detail on these bogies, it's not very well defined either, but we do have a number of different boxes and tanks underneath this carriage, so it has got quite a lot of interest there. And under here you can see the Playart logo and the made in Hong Kong. This one seems to be missing 2 screws here to hold it together, so it should come apart quite easily. So let's open up this coach and we'll have a look and see what it looks like inside. So a very simple setup here. We've got a bulb in this area here which seems to be partitioned off from the rest of the interior, but it's just one single bulb which seems to illuminate everything at the front of this coach. And the pickup does indeed come from this bogie here with these wires and just a simple resistor here in line. We have a weight in the middle, and you can also see that the bogies are just a simple push fit into here. There's no screws holding them in. Inside the main moulding we have a simple piece of plastic here for the windows, and also this part here at the front would illuminate through this panel here, but it does actually look as though it's had a bash or some moulding issue there, or maybe it's just melted or something. Quite sure what's going on there. So let's get this back together and we'll look at the power car. And just getting this back together, I've actually managed to get this piece of plastic in flush with the end of the coach as well. It's just needed to be aligned properly underneath here where the clip is. So that's quite good. At least we've got that part fixed. So I've just picked up the other trailing car here, and this doesn't have the moulding issue on the front on this little window here. It does have a bit of damage though, a couple of pieces missing on the roof. It has two separate pieces here and here which are different from the other carriage. So they look as though there's something different that should have been there, and the paint has also not been applied that well underneath there. So it feels as though this carriage is missing something as well up here. While they have one window on one side, they have two on the other, and it's very strange because there's a bit of a curve on the window at the top, but the one at the bottom is just square, so that's quite strange. So this is the power car. It's got all the weight as well. It's quite a heavy model, this one. It has many similar issues that we've already seen on this review, in that the painting is absolutely terrible on the side. There's no interior in any of these carriages, but this one you can see an awful lot of electronics and stuff going on inside here, and we do have something rattling around. It's probably a weight. What is really good on this model is that it has these really nice looking pantographs on the roof here, as well as a number of additional parts put in for the electrical gear, and a lot of moulding detail up here. They've really gone to town on this model, and it really does look quite impressive with all these parts up on the roof here. The pantographs also look really good in this stainless steel. There's absolutely no tarnishing on these at all, even though this model is quite old, and they work very well. The action on these spring-loaded pantographs is really quite impressive. So we can see that we have the same problem with the gangway door here, and this is where these parts fit in. We're missing the coupling to couple this whole train together. So I think we should take this model apart and see if we can try and fix it. It's got two screws, so it's going to be quite easy to take apart, I think. So there's no provision here for overhead pickup from those pantographs, even though they're made of metal. This chassis is made of plastic, but it does have quite a lot of weight fitted onto this model. Quite a simple setup. We've got the pickup at the front bogie here, and it drives the motor which is sitting here on this bogie. I'm going to see if I can get this coupling back together. Okay, so just handling the model there, these weights actually did fall out. So these screws aren't holding in these weights at all. And I did notice that it has quite bad holes on the chassis here. So something's gone wrong there. I'm thinking maybe I could replace this just with maybe a nut and bolt arrangement. So we'll try and do that in a minute. And I'm just taking this bogie apart. It seems to be a simple clip fit. It comes apart quite easily once that unclips. We have some traction tyres on these. They don't look in too bad condition. I think they would be okay just to keep on the model. You can see the gearbox down here that it's just all made of plastic, which isn't the best, I think. It does have traction tyres on all wheels, so hopefully it should pull along okay, but it's only designed to pull two other carriages. So I think we've got on pretty well. I've got the coupling back in here. It just needed a little bit of glue as well in order to help it stay in place there. And I've replaced the screws which were holding this weight in with these nut and bolt arrangements. So there's a couple of bolt heads underneath this model now, but the weights are secure, and hopefully that will work pretty good now. So I think we should maybe put this on the test track and see if it actually runs. Okay, we've just put it on the test track here. I'm going to give it some power and see what happens. Well, that's really surprising. It works brilliantly. It's got a bit of a strange whirring noise to it. That's an interesting characteristic of this model, and it kind of fits with the space age look that it's got. But it runs super smooth and there's absolutely no problems at all. So I think that's a great win. So let me get this back together and then we could put it on the scales and find out how much it weighs. So the power car weighs 410 grams and the unpowered carriages weigh 159 grams each. Well, it's been really interesting to have a look at this model today, don't you agree? It's such an unusual model, but it looks absolutely fantastic. It's almost like it's come out of a science fiction film, but in that kind of 60s sci-fi style. I think this is a very rare item to get here in the UK, and I think I was quite fortunate to get my hands on this model. I've never seen anything like this before, even though I've seen some Japanese-themed model railways at shows here in the UK. Perhaps they're more common in China or Japan, but certainly here if you see one of these sets, it's going to be quite an unusual thing. And if you have perhaps a show layout and you brought this out, it's definitely going to capture some people's attention. That said, this model has got some clear limitations. The paintwork on it is absolutely terrible. The moulding isn't too good either, and it's got some obvious moulding marks. It doesn't scream quality at all. However, the mechanics were quite surprising. It actually worked really good, and I really like the detail on the roof of the power car, and those pantographs are actually really cool looking as well. So there's a lot to like about this model, but it does come with a lot of things to consider. So should you consider buying something like this? Well, it really depends on what you're modelling, I suppose. If you're absolutely strict on a certain period of time and Japanese railways is not that, then this is just not going to fit into your layout because it's just so different than anything else. However, if you do like to run unusual things or just stuff that you like, this could be a really interesting addition to your layout. And I also think it has a lot of opportunity to improve things on these models. There's no interior, you could add one of those. You could even repaint these and make it look a lot better. The lighting, although it does actually work at both ends of this train, is absolutely terrible. It looks really bad, but it does have the opportunity there to change it for some LED lighting. So there's a lot you can do with these models, so it's a bit of a mixed bag. But I'm sure you'll agree these are really unusual. I've loved having a look at them today, and I hope you have too. Let me know what you think about my analysis in the comments below. I'd love to know what you think of these models. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps this channel grow. I'll put one of the end cars on the turntable so you can see all the way around. But that's it for today. Thanks for watching. See ya!